My husband was currently screaming at a flight attendant in first class, demanding champagne he couldn't pay for. He didn't know that 3 minutes ago I hadn't just declined his credit card. I had liquidated his entire existence. He thought he was flying to a secret rendezvous. He was actually flying straight into a federal indictment I'd spent the last 48 hours hand-stitching with his own lies. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. I was wrist-deep in a mixture of peat moss and perlite when the first vibration buzzed against the teak wood of the potting table. I ignored it. In my backyard, specifically in the northwest corner where the afternoon sun hit the hydrangeas just right to turn them that violent, electric blue, technology was an invader. This was my sanctuary. For the last 10 years since I walked out of my corner office at Ellison & Co., landscape architecture. To become this supportive foundation, my husband Kyle claimed he needed, this garden was the only thing I truly owned. I wasn't just gardening, I was performing surgery. The endless summer hydrangeas were temperamental this year. They required a soil pH of exactly 5.5 to maintain that deep azure hue. If it crept up to 6.0, they'd turn a sickly pink. Kyle preferred pink. He said blue flowers looked artificial. Naturally, I spent 3 hours a week testing the soil acidity, just to keep them spitefully, brilliantly blue. Buzz. The phone rattled against a ceramic pot. A fly landed on my knuckle, attracted by the fish emulsion fertilizer. I brushed it off, leaving a streak of dark organic matter on my skin. "Not now," I whispered to the air, carefully pruning a deadhead from the center of the bush. I am not dealing with a telemarketer or a PTA mom right now. The silence of the Buckhead afternoon was usually heavy, weighted by the humidity and the sound of distant lawnmowers manicuring other multi-million-dollar estates. It was a golden cage, but it was quiet. Buzz, buzz, buzz. 3 rapid vibrations. That wasn't a call. That was a notification cluster. I sighed, the sound loud in the stillness. I wiped my hands on my canvas apron, leaving 2 long streaks of dirt like war paint on my thighs. I reached for the phone, intending to silence it and throw it back into her gardening tote. The screen lit up. It wasn't a text from my mother, and it wasn't a spam email. It was the banking app. The notification banner was bright red, a color that usually meant system error or fraud alert. I squinted against the glare of the sun. The peace I had carefully cultivated over a decade of silence didn't shatter all at once. It cracked, slowly, like a windshield hit by a pebble on the highway, starting with a single spider-webbing line. I picked up the phone, my thumb hovering over the unlock sensor. The dirt under my nail looked stark against the pristine glass. Alert. Transaction approved. Merchant. Sutton's Table, Buckhead, Atlanta. Amount, $4,512 amongst yours. Card, Platinum Rewards ending in 88. I stared at the numbers. They didn't make sense. It was like reading a sentence in a language I had studied 20 years ago but had forgotten the grammar of. $4,500. I said the number out loud, testing the weight of it on my tongue. I blinked. I looked at the time in the top right corner of the screen. 4:17 p.m. I tapped the notification, my finger leaving a smudge on the glass. The app opened, Face ID recognizing me despite the lack of makeup and the gardening hat. I navigated to the Pending Transactions tab. There it was, right at the top, bold and unashamed. Sutton's Table. Today, 4:15 p.m. This is a mistake, I muttered, shaking my head. The system is glitching. Kyle was in the Hamptons. He had left this morning at 6 a.m. I had packed his suitcase. I had ironed his shirts, the light blue Brooks Brothers one and the crisp white one he saved for closing deals. He was currently supposed to be in a geological survey meeting regarding a new resort development on Long Island. He'd given me a 20-minute lecture before he left about how critical and top secret this survey was. "Don't call me, Zola," he had said, checking his watch while I handed him his travel mug. "I mean it. I'll have my phone off. We're going deep into the site, signal will be garbage, and I can't have my phone buzzing while I'm trying to convince the investors that the soil stability is viable. I'll call you in 15 days when I surface." 15 days. No contact. Because of soil stability. I looked back at the phone. If he was in the Hamptons, walking through mud and talking about foundational integrity, why was his credit card being swiped at the most exclusive French fusion restaurant in Atlanta? Maybe his card was cloned. That happened, right? Skimmers at gas stations, hackers in dark rooms in Eastern Europe. Someone had stolen his numbers and was treating themselves to a banquet. But the timestamp nagged at me. 4:15 p.m., 12 minutes ago. Sutton's Table was exactly 12 miles from our house. In rush hour traffic, that was a 40-minute drive. I pulled off my gardening gloves, tossing them onto the grass. My hands were shaking. Not a lot, just a fine tremor in the fingers. The kind you get when your blood sugar drops or when your body knows something your brain hasn't accepted yet. I needed to verify this. I couldn't just stand here among the hydrangeas and guess. I needed a human voice to tell me this was a computer error, that the merchant ID was wrong, that Sutton's Table was actually the billing name for a survey equipment supplier in New York. I dialed the number on the back of the card, not the general hotline, the private wealth management direct line. The phone rang once, twice. A smooth baritone voice answered. "Good afternoon, this is the Diamond Desk. You're speaking with Arthur. How can I assist the Thorne family today?" "Arthur," I said. My voice sounded thin, reedy. I cleared my throat, forcing the authority of a CEO's wife into my tone. "This is Zola Thorne. I'm calling about a notification I just received." "Of course, Mrs. Thorne," Arthur said, the sound of typing clicking rhythmically in the background. "I have your account pulled up right here. I see the alert. Was this transaction not authorized by you or Mr. Thorne?" I'm not sure," I said. I walked over to the patio chair and sat down heavily. The iron felt cold through my leggings. "My husband is currently out of town, on business, in New York, so I was confused when I saw a charge for a restaurant here in Atlanta." The typing stopped. There was a pause, a silence that lasted 3 seconds but felt like an hour. "I see," Arthur said. His tone shifted. It was still polite, but the warmth had evaporated. It was the fraud protocol voice. "Let me look at the transaction details deeper. One moment." I listened to the hold music, some generic classical piece that was supposed to be soothing but sounded like a funeral march. I looked at the orchid arrangement on the veranda table. Phalaenopsis. White. Perfect, fragile. I had watered them yesterday. They looked mocking now. "Mrs. Thorne?" Arthur came back. "I'm here." "Okay, so this was a card-present transaction," Arthur explained carefully. "That means the physical chip was inserted into the terminal. It wasn't an online order or a magnetic swipe. The card is physically at the location." My stomach dropped. It felt like the elevator cable had just snapped. "And the location?" I asked. "Can you confirm the merchant isn't, I don't know, a holding company based in Atlanta for a business in New York?" "No, ma'am," Arthur said gently. "The merchant category code is 5812, eating places and restaurants. The terminal ID is registered to Sutton's Table, located at 3280 Peachtree Road, Atlanta, Georgia. The authorization code came through at 4:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time." The air in the garden suddenly felt thick, cloying with the scent of fertilizer and blooming flowers. It smelled like a funeral home. "And the amount?" I asked, though I already knew. $4,512, Arthur recited. "Whatever they ordered, Mrs. Thorne, it was quite a feast." "Right," I breathed out. "Right." "Do you want me to flag this as fraud?" Arthur asked. "If Mr. Thorne is in New York, then someone obviously has his card here. We can freeze it immediately." "No," I said quickly, too quickly. "No, don't freeze it yet, Arthur. I might be mistaken about his itinerary. He might have had a layover or a client meeting here before flying out. Let me check his calendar before we cause a scene." As you wish, ma'am. But if you confirm it's unauthorized, call us back immediately. The fraud window is time sensitive. I will. Thank you, Arthur. I ended the call. I didn't verify his calendar. I knew his calendar better than he did. I managed it. He wasn't in New York. He wasn't surveying land. He was 20 minutes away. And he had just spent more on a single Tuesday lunch than he allowed me to spend on groceries for 2 months. Sutton's Table. The name wasn't just a location. It was a scar. It burned in my chest, radiating heat. I closed my eyes and I was back in the kitchen, 6 months ago. It was the week before our 10th anniversary. I'd been planning it for months. I wanted something special, something that wasn't just us eating the roast chicken I cooked every Thursday while he checked emails on his phone. I remembered the smell of the kitchen that night, lemon polish and simmering basil. I had shown him the article in Atlanta magazine. "Look, Kyle," I had said, sliding the glossy page across the granite island. "It's called Sutton's Table. Everyone is talking about it. They have this tasting menu with wine pairings and a view of the skyline. It looks magical." Kyle hadn't even looked up from his laptop. He was typing furiously, his brow furrowed in that permanent expression of very important businessman. "How much?" he had asked. "Well, it's a fixed price." I hesitated. "It's about $400 per person, but it's our 10th anniversary. A decade, Kyle. I thought we could splurge." He stopped typing then. He looked up, taking off his reading glasses and pinching the bridge of his nose. He looked at me like I was a child asking for a pony. $800 for dinner? He scoffed, a dry, humorless sound. "Zola, be realistic. Do you know how hard I work for that money? Do you know the margins we're operating on right now?" "I know, but—" "No buts," he interrupted, his voice rising. "It's frivolous, it's vanity. That place is for tourists and idle rich people who need to show off because they have no substance. We are building a future. We need a solid foundation, not a stomachache and a bill that could pay for a new roof." "I haven't asked for anything in a long time," I whispered, feeling the sting of tears I refused to let fall. "I haven't bought new clothes. I canceled the landscape conference trip. I just wanted one night." "Don't be dramatic," he snapped, turning back to his screen. "We can order takeout from that Thai place you like. We'll open a bottle of wine here. It's the same thing. Don't be an extravagance, Zola. It's unattractive." Unattractive. That word had echoed in my head for 6 months. I was unattractive for wanting to celebrate us. I was extravagant for wanting to spend $800 after saving him hundreds of thousands by being his housekeeper, his chef, his secretary, and his emotional punching bag. And now, today, on a Tuesday afternoon, while he was supposedly wading through mud in the Hamptons for the sake of our future, he was at that exact restaurant, and he hadn't spent $800. He had spent $4,500. 4,500. That wasn't a meal. That was a down payment on a car. That was a statement. He wasn't stingy. He was just stingy with me. The rage didn't come in a hot flash. It came like liquid nitrogen. It started at my fingertips and moved up my arms, freezing everything in its path. My heart slowed down. My breathing became steady. He lied. It was such a simple sentence. He lied, but it shattered the world. If he lied about the Hamptons, he lied about the money. If he lied about the money, he lied about the solid foundation. I looked at the hydrangeas. They were beautiful. I had nurtured them. I had adjusted the soil, fought the pests, pruned the dead weight. I was done gardening. It was time to pull weeds. I didn't call my mother. She had arrhythmia, and if I told her that her perfect son-in-law was currently defrauding our marriage, she'd be in the cardiac unit before dinner. I needed a shark. I needed someone who didn't cry. I needed Jasmine. Jasmine Banks had been my roommate at Spelman College. While I was drawing landscapes and dreaming of parks, Jasmine was memorizing case law and sharpening her teeth. She was now a senior partner at Banks and Associates, specializing in high-asset divorce and corporate litigation. She hated Kyle. She had hated him since the wedding rehearsal dinner when he made a joke about affirmative action that made the room go silent. I scrolled to her name, Jasmine, the fixer. I hit call. She picked up on the second ring. Well, Jasmine's voice was rich and teasing. If it isn't the lady of the manor, to what do I owe the pleasure? Did you finally kill the bonsai tree? Jasmine, I said. My voice must have sounded like broken glass because the teasing vanished instantly. Where are you? Jasmine asked. Sharp. Professional. Are you safe? I'm in the garden, I said. I'm safe, physically. What did he do? She didn't ask. Who? She knew. Did he hit you? No, I said. He's on a business trip in the Hamptons for 15 days. Okay. Jasmine dragged out the word, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Except 15 minutes ago, his credit card, the one attached to our primary joint account, was charged $4,500 at Sutton's table. Here. In Buckhead. Silence. I could hear Jasmine shifting in her leather chair. I could hear the click of a pen being uncapped. Sutton's table, Jasmine repeated. The place he told you was too bourgeois for your anniversary? The very one. And you verified it? Called the bank. Card present transaction. Verified terminal ID. That son of a bitch, Jasmine exhaled. It wasn't a curse. It was a verdict. Okay, Zola. Listen to me very carefully. Do not get in your car. Do not drive down there. Do not create a scene. I want to, I admitted. I want to walk in there and flip the table. I know. And that would be satisfying for about 30 seconds until he spins it, calls you hysterical, and hides the rest of the assets, Jasmine said, her voice dropping into that scary, calm register she used in court. We are playing the long game now. $4,000 is a lot for lunch, Z. That's not a business meeting. That's a date. A very expensive date. I know. I need proof, Jasmine said. Hard proof. Not just a bank statement. He can claim his card was stolen. He can claim he lent it to a colleague. We need visuals. How? They won't let me in the security room. No, Jasmine said. But I have a client who owns a stake in that restaurant group. And I have another client who is the GM there. I did his custody arrangement last year pro bono because his wife ran off with a yoga instructor. He owes me. Jasmine, give me 10 minutes, she interrupted. Send me a photo of Kyle, a recent one, and send me the transaction details. I'm going to make a call. What if he leaves? He just dropped $4,000 on appetizers and wine, Zola. People like Kyle don't rush through a meal like that. They bask in it. Send me the photo, now. Okay. And Zola? Yeah? Put some ice in a glass. Drink it. Do not cry. Tears are for funerals. This is a war. I sent the photo. It was the one from the company Christmas party. Kyle in his tuxedo, smiling that practiced, white-toothed smile that used to make my knees weak and now made my stomach turn. Then I waited. I went inside the house. The air conditioning hit me like a wall. The house was spotless. The marble floors gleamed. The crown molding was dust-free. It was a museum of my servitude. I walked to the kitchen and did exactly what Jasmine said. I filled a crystal tumbler with ice. I filled it with water. I drank it in one long draught. The cold hurt my teeth. It was grounding. 10 minutes passed, then 12. My phone chimed. A WhatsApp message from Jasmine. Jasmine, do not scream, just watch. Then call me. Below it was a video file. Security Cam 04 MP4. I sat on one of the high-backed bar stools at the kitchen island. My hand hovered over the play button. I knew that once I pressed it, my life as Zola Thorne, the landscape architect turned devoted wife, was officially over. I pressed play. The video was grainy but clear enough. It was a high-angle shot from a security camera tucked into the corner of the restaurant's ceiling. It showed a booth, one of the private velvet-lined ones in the back. There was Kyle. He wasn't wearing his jacket. His tie was loosened. He looked relaxed, expansive. He was leaning back against the plush red velvet, one arm draped over the top of the booth, holding a wine glass by the stem. And across from him, she was young, painfully young. She had long, honey-brown hair that cascaded over her shoulders. She was wearing a slip dress that looked like spun silver. I leaned closer to the screen, squinting. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Thump, thump, thump. I knew her. It was Noelle. Noelle Simmons, the intern. I had met her 3 months ago. I had brought lunch to Kyle's office, homemade lasagna. He had introduced her in the hallway. "This is Noelle," he had said dismissively. "She's shadowing the team for the semester. She's fetching coffee and learning the ropes." She had smiled at me then, a shy, deferential smile. "Mrs. Thorne, it's so nice to meet you. Mr. Thorne, talks about your garden all the time." In the video, the shy intern was gone. Kyle was holding a fork. He had speared a massive chunk of lobster tail, dripping in butter. He wasn't eating it. He reached across the table. Noelle leaned forward, opening her mouth. He fed her. It was an act of such casual, blatant intimacy that I felt like I had been slapped. She chewed, laughing, throwing her head back. A drop of butter ran down her chin, and then, the moment that killed me. Noelle didn't use a napkin. She reached out with her finger, wiped the butter from her chin, and then she reached across and wiped a speck of something from the corner of Kyle's mouth. Kyle didn't pull away. He didn't look around to see if anyone was watching. He caught her hand. He turned it over. And he kissed her palm. He kissed the palm of her hand with a tenderness I hadn't seen in 5 years. The video ended. It froze on that frame, his lips on her hand. 30 seconds. That's all it took to erase 10 years. I put the phone down on the granite counter. It made a sharp clack. I looked around my kitchen. The Sub-Zero fridge, the Wolf range, the custom cabinetry. "He's not in the Hamptons," I whispered to the empty room. My shock was evaporating, burned away by a cold, hard clarity. He was cheating. That was the headline. But the subtext, the fine print that was currently scrolling through my mind, was the money. $4,500. He wasn't just sleeping with her. He was funding her. He was using our joint assets, the money I had helped save, the equity from the house my parents helped us buy, to play sugar daddy to a 22-year-old intern. He thought I was stupid. He thought I was just the gardener, the little woman at home who wouldn't notice if the accounts bled a little. I looked at the phone again, at the frozen image of my husband kissing another woman's hand. "Don't cry," Jasmine had said. "Tears are for funerals." She was right. I wasn't going to mourn this marriage. I was going to audit it. I picked up the phone and dialed Jasmine back. "I saw it," I said. My voice was dead, flat. "Okay," Jasmine said softly. "I'm sorry, Zola. I really am." "Don't be," I said. "He's the one who's going to be sorry." "What do you want to do?" Jasmine asked. "Do you want to confront him when he gets home?" "No," I said. "He thinks he's gone for 15 days. He thinks he has a 2-week vacation from his wife. I'm not going to interrupt his dinner." "Zola?" "I'm going to cut off the supply," I said. "Jasmine, tell me exactly what to say to the bank manager to legally freeze every single asset we have without his signature." Jasmine let out a low, dark chuckle. "Oh, honey, grab a pen. You're going to need to use the words asset dissipation and fiduciary breach. Write this down." I didn't smash the phone. That's what people do in movies. They throw the glass against the wall, they scream until their throat bleeds, they sweep the expensive china off the table. I did none of that. I carefully placed the phone on the quartz countertop, right next to the fruit bowl that held 3 perfectly ripened pears I had bought because Kyle liked them, poached in red wine. I walked over to the Sub-Zero refrigerator. The stainless steel was cold against my fingertips. I opened the door, the soft hiss of the vacuum seal, breaking, sounding incredibly loud in the silence. I took out the pitcher of filtered water. I poured a glass. I drank it. The water was so cold it made the bridge of my nose ache. I focused on that pain. It was a clean, sharp pain. It was better than the muddy, suffocating sensation in my chest. "Okay," I said to the empty kitchen. "Okay." I looked down at my hands. They were still stained with soil from the garden. The dark earth was wedged under my fingernails, a stark contrast to the sparkling, clean kitchen. 10 years. I closed my eyes and saw the montage. Me, resigning from the firm. Me, packing up my drafting table. Me, telling my parents that Kyle needed a stable home environment to build his empire. Me, becoming the invisible infrastructure of his life. I was the one who remembered his mother's birthday. I was the one who researched the best schools for the children we didn't have yet. I was the one who made sure his shirts were starched exactly the way he liked, heavy on the collar, light on the cuffs, and he was the one feeding lobster to a 22-year-old with my money. I felt a sudden wave of nausea. I gripped the edge of the island, my knuckles turning white. I wanted to vomit. I wanted to purge the last decade out of my system, but I swallowed it down. "Tears are for funerals," Jasmine had said. This wasn't a funeral, this was an eviction. I marched to the sink and turned on the faucet. I grabbed the scrubbing brush. I scrubbed my hands. I scrubbed until the skin was raw and red, until every speck of dirt was gone. I needed to be clean. I needed to be surgical. I dried my hands on a linen towel. I walked back to the phone. I unlocked it. I didn't look at the photo of the kiss again. I didn't need to. It was burned into my retina. I opened the Notes app. I opened a new note. I typed a list. 1. Bank. 2. House. 3. Locks. Simple. I looked at the clock on the oven. 4:58 p.m. The bank's closed at 5 p.m., but the VIP line, the diamond desk, was open 24/7. I took a deep breath. I channeled the Zola Ellison who used to negotiate contracts with city councils, the Zola Ellison who stared down contractors and budget committees. She had been asleep for 10 years, sedated by domestic comfort. She was awake now, and she was pissed. I dialed the number again, the same number Arthur had answered earlier. This time, I didn't get Arthur. I got a woman named Sarah. Her voice was bright, chipper, oblivious. "Thank you for calling the Diamond Desk. This is Sarah. How can I need to speak to Mr. Sterling immediately," I interrupted. My voice was low, steady, and left no room for argument. "This is Zola Thorne, account number ending in 9244. Mr. Sterling was the Director of Private Client Services. He was the man who sent us a hamper of gourmet cheeses every Christmas. He was the man who played golf with Kyle." "Oh, Mrs. Thorne," Sarah faltered. "Mr. Sterling has actually left for the day. It's just past 5. Is there something I can assist you with?" "No, Sarah. You cannot assist me unless you have the authorization to override a Level 4 security freeze." I lied. I didn't know if Level 4 was a real thing, but it sounded terrifying. "Patch me through to his cell. Or get the on-call director. Now, this is a time-sensitive emergency regarding asset security. One moment, ma'am." The hold music started again. Mozart. It mocked me. 2 minutes later, a breathless voice answered. It was Mr. Sterling. "Zola, good evening. Sarah said there's an emergency. Is everyone all right? Is Kyle okay?" "Kyle is fine, Mr. Sterling," I said. "Kyle is currently dining at Sutton's table, but that's not why I'm calling." I walked out onto the veranda. The air was cooling down, but I felt feverish. "I need you to execute an immediate freeze on all joint accounts," I said. "The checking, the savings, the investment portfolio, and the HELOC, and I need you to cancel the platinum card ending in 88 immediately." Silence. I could hear Mr. Sterling breathing. "Zola," he said. his tone shifting from friendly to cautious. "You know I can't just freeze everything based on a phone call. Kyle is the primary on the investment account. If he's at dinner, cutting off his card could be embarrassing." "Embarrassing is the least of his problems, Mr. Sterling," I said. "And I am the primary on the checking and the savings. The house is in both our names." "I understand that, but usually in these situations, we require both parties to consent to a total freeze unless there is a suspected breach of fiduciary duty or illegal dissipation of marital assets." I cut him off. I read the words Jasmine had texted me. "I am formally notifying the bank that I have evidence of unauthorized large-scale withdrawals and misuse of joint funds for non-marital purposes. If you allow another transaction to go through after this notification, the bank becomes liable for the dissipated assets." "Dissipated assets?" Mr. Sterling choked. "Zola, are you saying Kyle is stealing?" "I am saying," I enunciated clearly, "that $4,500 was just spent on a card that is supposed to be for business use, while he is supposedly on a geological survey in New York. I am saying that if you do not freeze these accounts right now, my lawyer, Jasmine Banks, will be faxing you a subpoena for negligence tomorrow morning." Jasmine Banks? He knew the name. Everyone in Atlanta's high society knew Jasmine. She was a pit bull in Chanel. "Look, Zola," Mr. Sterling stammered, "let's not get lawyers involved. If you are reporting suspicious activity, I am obligated to lock it down. But you have to understand, once I hit this button, nothing works. Auto pay, mortgages, everything stops." "Hit the button," I said. "Kyle is going to call me," Mr. Sterling warned. "He's going to be very upset." "Let him call," I said. "Tell him to call his wife." "Okay," Mr. Sterling sighed. I heard the clicking of a keyboard. Rapid. Final. "I'm putting a code red lock on the profile. Fraud suspicion. All cards are deactivated effective. Now. Accounts are frozen pending in-person verification." "Thank you, Mr. Sterling." "Zola," he added, his voice softer. "I'm sorry." "Me too," I said. I hung up. I looked at the phone. It was done. The lifeline was cut. Somewhere, 12 miles away, a waiter was probably approaching Kyle's table with a bottle of Dom Perignon that Kyle had ordered with the confidence of a man who thought the world belonged to him. I imagined the moment the card would be swiped, the little beep, the waiter's polite frown. "I'm sorry, sir. It was declined." Kyle would laugh. He would pull out the backup card. Declined. He would pull out the debit card. Declined. I felt a dark, cold satisfaction unfurl in my chest. It wasn't happiness. It was the grim satisfaction of a soldier watching an enemy walk into a minefield. I didn't eat dinner. The thought of food made my throat close up. The sun went down slowly, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange. I sat in the living room, but I didn't turn on the lights. This house, this massive 4,000-square-foot Buckhead mansion, it had always felt big, but tonight it felt like a cavern. The ceilings were too high. The shadows stretched too long across the Persian rugs. I sat in the wingback chair by the window, Kyle's chair, and listened to the house. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The grandfather clock in the hallway. It was a wedding gift from his parents. "To mark the happy times," his mother had said. Tonight, it sounded like a countdown. I checked my phone. 7:30 p.m. They were probably on the main course now, or maybe dessert. Kyle had a sweet tooth. He loved creme brulee. He loved cracking the sugar crust with a spoon. He used to do that with me. Now he was cracking it for her. I wondered if they were talking about me. Probably not. Cheaters rarely talk about the spouse during the act. We are just the obstacle, the background noise they tune out. He was probably telling her about the big deal he was closing. He was probably promising her a trip to Paris next month. "With what money, Kyle?" I thought. "With what money?" I squeezed my eyes shut. The darkness of the room pressed against me. I realized I was waiting for the phone to ring. I was waiting for the explosion, but it didn't come. Not yet. 8:45 p.m. Still silence. Maybe he had cash? No. Kyle never carried cash. He said cash was dirty. He relied entirely on the plastic rectangles in his wallet. Maybe he called the bank? Mr. Sterling would tell him the accounts were frozen for suspicious activity. Kyle would scream. He would demand an override. But banks are bureaucratic beasts. Once a fraud flag is raised, it takes paperwork to lower it. 9:30 p.m. The silence was deafening. It was a physical weight. I got up and walked through the house like a ghost. I touched the things I had bought, the vase on the mantelpiece, the velvet throw pillows, the framed photos on the wall. There we were in Maui, 3 years ago, smiling, tans. There we were, at his sister's wedding, him with his hand on my waist. I took the frame off the wall. I looked at it in the moonlight streaming through the window. "Who are you?" I whispered to the man in the photo. The man in the photo looked kind, secure. The man in the restaurant was a stranger who wiped lobster butter off a girl's face. I placed the photo face down on the console table. I went upstairs to the master bedroom. The bed was huge, king-sized, California king. I didn't get in. I couldn't bear the thought of lying on the sheets where he slept. I went to the guest room down the hall, the room I used for my parents when they visited. The sheets were crisp and smelled of lavender. I lay down, fully clothed. I curled into a ball. I didn't sleep. I just watched the moonlight crawl across the floorboards, counting the minutes. Tick, tock. He was out there, stranded, humiliated, and tomorrow, the real war would begin. I parked my Range Rover in the garage of the sleek glass building downtown, Banks and Associates. It was 7:55 a.m. I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked haunted. My eyes were puffy despite the cold compress I had used. My skin looked gray. I had pulled my hair back into a severe bun, no loose strands. I wore my black power suit, the one I wore to funerals and board meetings. I walked into the lobby. The receptionist nodded at me. She knew me. "Jasmine is waiting for you in conference room B," she said softly. She knew too. People always knew before you thought they did. I walked down the hallway. The carpet swallowed the sound of my heels. I opened the heavy glass door. Jasmine was there, standing by the window, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. She turned when I entered. She didn't smile. She didn't offer a hug. She knew I would shatter if she touched me. "Coffee," she said, pointing to a steaming mug on the mahogany table. "Black, 2 sugars, the way you take it when you're stressed." "Thank you," I rasped. My voice was rusty from disuse. I sat down. Jasmine sat opposite me. She opened a manila folder. "I pulled the preliminary report," Jasmine said, skipping the pleasantries. "It's worse than we thought." "Worse?" I gripped the mug. "How can it be worse than him dating an intern?" "Financially," Jasmine said. "I ran a soft credit check on him this morning. Just a peek. Zola, his utilization is at 90%. The cards are maxed out." "Maxed out?" I frowned. "But he makes—" "I know what he makes," Jasmine interrupted, "or what he tells you he makes. But he's bleeding cash. There are withdrawals, large ones, cash advances, and not just recently." "How long?" 2 years, Jasmine said. "Whatever this is." "It didn't start with the intern 3 months ago. This has been going on for a while." I felt the room spin slightly. 2 years? "Okay," I said. "So we divorce him. We take half. We sell the house." "Divorce is the goal," Jasmine said. "But we need to be strategic. If we file today, he freezes everything too. We enter a legal deadlock that could take years. And if he's bleeding cash, by the time we get a judgment, there might be nothing left to take." "So what do we do?" "We sell the house," Jasmine said, "immediately." "The house?" I looked at her. "The Buckhead house? Jasmine, that's my masterpiece, the garden." "The garden is an asset," Jasmine said ruthlessly. And right now, it's a sinking ship. The market is hot. We list it. We get a cash offer. We liquidate the equity before he can gamble it away or spend it on lobster dinners. He won't sign, I said. It's in both our names. Jasmine smirked. It was a dangerous look. He's currently desperate for cash, right? You froze his accounts. He needs money. We tell him we're selling to downsize or to fix cash flow problems. We leverage his own desperation against him. Or, she hesitated. Or what? Or we find a way to sell it that he can't stop. But for now, we prepare the listing. I have a realtor, Caleb, who can move it quietly. Pocket listing, no yard sign. Sell it, I whispered. The words tasted like ash. My hydrangeas, my orchids, my 10 years of sweat and soil. Okay, sell it. Good, Jasmine said. Now, let's talk about the last 12 hours. Did he call? I pulled my phone out of my bag. I hadn't looked at it since I left the house. I had put it on Do Not Disturb while I drove. I tapped the screen. I stared at the notification center. It was a solid wall of red. 66 missed calls. From hubby, Kyle. I let out a short, hysterical laugh. 66. Let me see. Jasmine reached for the phone. She scrolled through the log. Look at the times, she pointed. 8:15 p.m. 16 p.m. 17 p.m. 20 p.m. That's when the bill came, Jasmine noted. 8:15 p.m. He tried the card. Declined. He tried again. Declined. He called you. Then there's a gap, I observed. 8:45 p.m. That's when he argued with the manager, Jasmine surmised. Tried to throw his weight around. Do you know who I am? That sort of thing. 9:30 p.m. 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 Panic, Jasmine said. He realized the backup cards were dead too. He realized he was stuck. p.m. p.m. He probably had to call someone else to bail him out, I said. Or he left his watch as collateral. God, imagine the scene. And then this morning, Jasmine pointed to the bottom of the list. 6:30. 45th. The hangover rage, Jasmine said. He's sober now and he's furious. He sent texts too, I said, seeing the badge on the Messages app. 14 unread messages. Don't read them yet, Jasmine said. Listen to the voicemail first. Did he leave one? One, I said. At 11:15 p.m. Put it on speaker, Jasmine commanded. She pulled out a dictaphone and pressed record. We need this for the file, evidence of demeanor. I pressed the play button. The audio crackled. Background noise, cars honking. He was outside. He wasn't in the restaurant anymore. Zola! His voice exploded from the tiny speaker. It wasn't the smooth, controlled baritone of Kyle Thorne, executive director. It was a high-pitched, jagged bark. Zola, pick up the goddamn phone. Are you crazy? Are you actually insane? He paused. I heard him breathing heavily. A wet, ragged sound. I am standing on Peachtree Road like a beggar. My card was declined. Declined, Zola. In front of the investors. Liar, I whispered to the phone. There were no investors. Just Noelle. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I called the bank and that idiot Sterling said you reported fraud. Fraud? What the hell is wrong with you? I told you I was on a secure site. I told you not to call. He was gaslighting me even in the voicemail. He was trying to rewrite reality while the ink was still wet. Unfreeze the accounts right now. I mean it. I have to pay the vendor. I had to leave my license with the manager. Zola, if you don't fix this in 10 minutes, I swear to God. The threat hung in the air, unfinished. Then his voice dropped. It became venomous, quiet. You are embarrassing me. You are a useless, ungrateful wife. I work my ass off for you and you pull a stunt like this? You better hope you're just confused, because if you did this on purpose... Click. The message ended. The room was silent. Jasmine stared at the recording device. Useless, I repeated. Ungrateful, Jasmine added. He left his license, I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. It wasn't a nice smile. He had to leave his ID at the restaurant because he couldn't pay. That means he can't get on a plane, Jasmine said, her eyes widening. He can't fly without ID. He's trapped, I said. He's stuck in Atlanta. He can't go to New York even if he wanted to, and he can't come home because he thinks I'm confused. He's going to come home, Jasmine warned. He's going to come storming in to fix the glitch. No, I said. He won't. Because he told me he was in the Hamptons for 15 days. If he comes home today, he admits he lied. He has to stay away to keep the lie alive. He has to pretend he's still on the trip. So, where is he staying? Hotels need credit cards, I reminded her. He doesn't have one. He's with her, Jasmine realized. He's staying with the intern. Let him, I said. I stood up, smoothing the wrinkles in my skirt. Let him see what it's like to live with a 22-year-old who expects lobster but gets a man who can't even buy a Big Mac. What are you going to do? Jasmine asked. I'm going to call him back, I said, and I'm going to play the confused wife. I'm going to make him squirm. Record it, Jasmine said. Oh, I said, picking up my phone. I intend to. I didn't give him the satisfaction of calling immediately after listening to the voicemail. I waited 20 minutes. I let him sweat on the sidewalk of Peachtree Road. I sat in Jasmine's conference room, the recorder still running. Jasmine nodded at me, a silent signal to begin the performance. I dialed. He answered on the first ring. Not the second. The first. He must have been staring at the screen, willing it to light up. Finally, Kyle screamed. Jesus, Zola, do you have any idea? Kyle? I interrupted. My voice was calm, pitched slightly higher than usual. The confused, concerned wife. Honey, why are you yelling? I barely understood your voicemail. You sounded unhinged. Unhinged? I'm stranded, he barked. I could hear traffic rushing by in the background. My card was declined, the platinum, the one with the $50,000 limit. It just stopped working. I know, I said soothingly. I spoke to Mr. Sterling. The bank flagged some very suspicious activity. There is no suspicious activity, Kyle shouted. It was me. I told you, I'm trying to entertain. But Kyle, I cut in. You told me you were in the Hamptons, on a geological survey, in a no-signal zone. Silence. The background noise of the street seemed to amplify. A bus hissed its air brakes. He stammered. The bluster evaporated, replaced by the slippery tone of improvisation. I was. The meeting moved. The geological survey moved? I asked innocently. From a soil site on Long Island to a French fusion restaurant in Buckhead? It's a satellite meeting, he snapped, regaining his footing. The investors flew down. They wanted to meet in Atlanta. I had to scramble. I didn't want to worry you with the change of plans. I see, I said. So you're entertaining investors? Yes, important ones. And you humiliated me in front of them. That's strange, I said, dropping the concerned wife act. My voice went flat, cold. Because the bank said the bill was for 2 people, and the security footage, well, it didn't look like an investor meeting, unless you usually feed lobster to your investors by hand. The silence on the other end was absolute. It was the sound of a man realizing the trap door had already opened beneath his feet. You, he whispered, you checked? I checked, I said. I saw the video, Kyle. I saw you kiss her hand. I saw you wipe the butter off her face. I saw the whole romantic little show. Zola, wait. It's not what you think. She's the niece of the lead investor. I was just being polite. It's a cultural thing. A cultural thing? I laughed. It was a dry, sharp sound. To make out with the client's niece? You really think I'm that stupid? After 10 years? Look, we can talk about this. His voice shifted. The panic was setting in. He realized the glitch excuse was dead. Just unfreeze the accounts. Please. I need to get a hotel. I need to eat. I'm stuck here, Zola. You have a license, don't you? I left it at the restaurant. Collateral. Well, I said, I guess you can't fly to the Hamptons then. Enjoy Atlanta, Kyle. I hear the weather is lovely this time of year for men who have lost everything. Zola, don't you dare hang up if you hang up. Goodbye, Kyle. I pressed the red button. My hand was steady. Jasmine let out a low whistle. He tried the cultural thing defense? That's a new low. He's desperate, I said. And desperate men are sloppy. I expected Kyle to call back. He didn't. He knew I wouldn't answer. Instead, 40 minutes later, as I was driving back to the mansion to meet the realtor Jasmine had recommended, my phone rang. The screen displayed Doreen Thorne. Here we go, I sighed. I put it on speakerphone and tossed it onto the passenger seat. Hello, Doreen. Zola. Her voice was a wail, a theatrical, high-pitched keening that she usually reserved for funerals or when the country club raised its dues. Oh, Zola, what have you done? I haven't done anything, Doreen. Your son, however... He called me, she interrupted, sobbing. He called me crying, Zola. My baby boy is on the street. He said you cut him off. He said you froze his money. How could you be so cruel? He's not on the street, I said, keeping my eyes on the road. He's a grown man in an expensive suit. I'm sure he can figure it out. He said you're accusing him of things. Doreen sniffled. He said you're delusional, jealous. Zola, honey, you know how hard he works. He's under so much pressure. Sometimes men just need a little outlet, a little stress relief. I gripped the steering wheel so hard the leather creaked. Stress relief? Is that what we're calling adultery now? He spent $4,000 on dinner with a 20-year-old while telling me to clip coupons. Oh, money, money, money. Doreen dismissed it, her tone hardening. That's all you care about? What about his soul? He's suffering, Zola. He's a man. Men have needs. Well, let's be honest, you've been looking tired lately. Maybe if you put a little more effort into your appearance, he wouldn't look elsewhere. The air in the car seemed to vanish. Excuse me, I whispered. I'm just saying, Doreen continued, emboldened by my silence. You let yourself go, Zola. All that time in the garden, digging in the dirt. It's not feminine. Kyle needs a muse. If he made a mistake, it's because he wasn't getting what he needed at home. You need to forgive him. Unfreeze the accounts, let him come home, and we'll never speak of this again. Don't throw away 10 years over a moment of weakness. A moment of weakness. 2 years of bank transfers. A mortgage behind my back. Doreen, I said, are you finished? I'm just trying to save your marriage, dear. Be a good wife. Be patient. Fix this. I pulled the car over to the side of the road. I couldn't drive and have this conversation. I needed to focus. I was a good wife, I said. My voice wasn't loud. It was terrifyingly quiet. For 10 years, I was a perfect wife. I cooked his meals. I ironed his shirts. I managed his life so he could play businessman. I gave up my career. I gave up my name. And that is your duty, Doreen snapped. You should be grateful he married you. An Ellison girl? Please. The Thorns are broke, I cut her off. Or at least Kyle is. And soon you will be too if you keep depending on him. What are you talking about? I'm talking about respect, Doreen. You want me to be patient? I was patient when he missed every anniversary for work. I was patient when he called my career a hobby. But I will not be patient while he steals my money to feed his mistress. It's his money. No, I said. It's our money. Actually, most of it came from the equity in the house my parents paid for. So really, it's my money. You ungrateful little... I'm done, Doreen. I'm done with him, and I'm done with you. Do not call me again. If you want to talk to someone, call your son. Maybe he can buy you lunch. Oh, wait, he can't. His card was declined. Zola, if you hang up on me... Goodbye, Doreen. I tapped the red button. Then I blocked the number. I sat there on the shoulder of the road, watching the cars rush by. My heart was pounding, but my head was clear. I had just severed the second head of the Hydra. I looked at my reflection in the vanity mirror. Doreen said I looked tired. I looked closer. I didn't look tired. I looked dangerous. My phone chimed again before I could put the car in drive. It wasn't a call. It was a WhatsApp message. Unknown number. Profile name, Baby Noel. I stared at the name, Baby Noel. Subtlety was not her strong suit. I hesitated. Jasmine had told me to ignore everything, but curiosity is a poison that tastes sweet. I opened the message. It was a photo. It wasn't taken on a yacht. Kyle didn't have yacht money right now. It was taken in a mirror, a hotel bathroom mirror. The background was generic beige tile. In the photo, Kyle was shirtless, looking at his phone with a scowl. He looked haggard. He looked like a man who had spent the night shouting. But Noelle, she was in the foreground. She was wearing one of Kyle's dress shirts, my husband's white dress shirt, unbuttoned. She was holding the phone, pouting at the camera, making a peace sign. The caption read, "He's stressed, but he's mine. Don't worry, Grandma. I'll take care of him better than you ever did. New era diakasser real love." Grandma. She called me Grandma. I was 34. I looked at the timestamp. Sent 1 minute ago. She was trying to mark her territory. She was trying to prove that even broke and angry, Kyle was still hers. She wanted a reaction. She wanted me to scream at her, to call her a whore, to engage in a catfight so she could show Kyle and say, "See? She's crazy." I looked at the photo again. I zoomed in, not on Noelle's face, not on Kyle's chest. I zoomed in on the counter behind them. There was a takeout bag. Burger King. I laughed. I laughed so hard I choked. Yesterday he was eating lobster. Today Noelle was feeding him a Whopper. I took a screenshot. I saved it to the hidden folder named Evidence. I didn't reply. I didn't block her. I wanted her to keep sending me ammunition. "Enjoy the burger, Baby Noelle," I whispered. "It's the last meal I'm paying for." I pulled into the driveway of the mansion. Caleb was already there, leaning against his silver Lexus. Caleb was the kind of realtor who wore loafers without socks and smelled of expensive cologne. He had sold houses in Buckhead for 20 years. He knew the skeleton in every closet in the zip code. "Zola!" He greeted me with a double cheek kiss. Jasmine called me. She sounded intense. Intense is one word for it, I said, unlocking the front door. "Come in, Caleb." We walked into the foyer. Caleb looked around, his eyes calculating square footage and crown molding value instantly. "It's stunning, Zola. You know I've always loved this place. The light in here is fantastic." "We need to sell it," I said, cutting to the chase. "Fast." Caleb raised an eyebrow. "How fast? A standard closing is 30 to 45 days. If we price it right—" "Faster," I said. "I need a cash buyer. I need to close in 2 weeks, maybe less." Caleb whistled. "That's a fire sale, Zola. You'll take a hit on the price. The market is cooling slightly. If you want speed, you lose leverage." "I don't care about leverage," I said. "I care about liquidation. I want this asset converted into a check before complications arise." "Divorce?" Caleb asked softly. "Criminal investigation," I corrected. Caleb blinked. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded. "Okay, criminal investigation speed. I have a list. Investors. People looking to park cash. They don't care about inspections. They just want the deed." "Call them," I said. "Now." "What about the price?" "List it at $2.2 million, I said. "That's low," Caleb frowned. "This place is worth 2.5 easily, especially with the garden." "I know," I said, "but at 2.2 it's a steal." "And steals move fast. Just do it, Caleb." He pulled out his phone. "I'm making the calls." I spent the next hour packing. Not clothes. I didn't care about the clothes. I packed documents. I went into the study, the one room Kyle allowed me to have a desk in, though he called it the craft room. I gathered the original deed, the survey maps, the insurance policies. I heard Caleb talking in the hallway. His voice was excited. Yes, she's motivated, extremely. The condition is immaculate. Uh-huh. The garden? Yes, it's award-winning. He walked into the study, covering the microphone of his phone. Zola, he hissed. You are not going to believe this. What? I called the Sharma family. They've been looking for a Buckhead estate for 6 months. They just flew in from Mumbai last week. They know the area. And? They offered full ask, Caleb said, his eyes wide. $2.2 million all cash. No financing contingency. They can close in 10 days. 10 days, I exhaled. That's perfect. There's one condition, Caleb said. What? I stiffened. They want the furniture? No, Caleb smiled. They want the garden, specifically the orchids and the hydrangeas. Mrs. Sharma saw the photos I had on file from the garden club tour last year. She says the feng shui is perfect because of your plants. She's willing to pay an extra $30,000 for the botanical inventory and your maintenance schedule. I froze. $30,000. Kyle had spent years telling me my gardening was a waste of money, a dirty hobby. He complained about the water bill. He complained about the cost of the rare orchid feed. And now, a stranger was offering me $30,000 just for the plants. It was validation. It was vindication. $30,000? I repeated. Yes. Is that okay? I know those orchids are your babies. I looked out the window at the greenhouse. I loved those plants. They had been my only friends for a decade, but I loved freedom more. Tell them yes, I said. Tell them they can have every single leaf. But I want the check in escrow by Friday. Done, Caleb said into the phone. She accepts. I sat down on the floor, surrounded by boxes of paper. I had just sold my home, my sanctuary. I felt lighter, terrifyingly, wonderfully lighter. The house was sold. The deal wasn't signed in ink yet, but in my mind, the for sale sign was already rotting in the front yard. I walked down the hallway to the room at the far end of the east wing. For the last 10 years, Kyle called this the junk room. Before that, it was the guest study. But before I met Kyle, in my head, it was always supposed to be my studio. I pushed the door open. The hinges groaned, a dry, rusty complaint. The air inside was stale, smelling of cardboard boxes and neglected dreams. Dust motes danced in the shaft of light, cutting through the heavy velvet curtains I had kept drawn for a decade. I walked over to the desk in the corner. It was a beautiful piece of reclaimed teak I had bought with my first commission check. Now, it was buried under piles of Kyle's Golf Digest back issues and boxes of old tax returns he told me never to touch. I shoved the magazines onto the floor. They landed with a heavy, satisfying thud. I found my old laptop bag underneath. It was covered in gray dust. I pulled out the MacBook Pro. It was an ancient model now, thick and heavy compared to the sleek wafers people carried these days. I plugged it in. I held my breath. Chime. The screen lit up. The Apple logo glowed. I waited for the operating system to load. It was slow. It groaned like an old man waking up from a coma. The desktop appeared. The wallpaper was a rendering of the vertical forest project I had designed for my senior thesis. I clicked on the folder named Ellison & Co. My old logo, a stylized fern leaf inside a geometric circle. Simple, strong. I opened a new browser window. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I logged into LinkedIn. My profile hadn't been updated in 9 years. Current role, homemaker. I hit edit. Current role, principal landscape architect, Ellison & Co. Status, open for business. I didn't stop there. I opened WhatsApp. I changed my profile picture from the photo of me and Kyle at his sister's wedding, the one where I was looking at him with adoration and he was looking at the camera. I uploaded the logo, then I posted a status update, just text, no emojis, no fluff. The foundation is cracked. Time to redesign the landscape. Ellison & Co. is back. Rebrand. New life. It was petty. It was provocative. It was bait. I knew Kyle checked my social media. He checked it religiously to make sure I wasn't posting anything embarrassing or low class. I set the phone down on the teak desk. "Come and get it," I whispered. The bait didn't just catch a fish, it caught a shark. 20 minutes. That's how long it took. I was wiping the dust off my old drafting compass when the phone vibrated. It buzzed against the wood with the ferocity of an angry hornet. Unknown number. I knew it was him. He couldn't call from his own phone because he knew I wouldn't answer, or maybe the battery had died and he didn't have a charger. He was borrowing a phone, probably from a waiter he had bribed with a watch, or a stranger on the street. I opened the message. "Ellison, are you out of your mind? Taking my name off your profile? You are a thorn. You will always be a thorn. Take that down immediately." I didn't reply. I took a screenshot. Evidence, control, tactics. A second message popped up, 3 dots dancing furiously before the text appeared. "And what is this nonsense about redesigning? If you touch a single asset, Zola, I swear I will sue you into the ground. That house is mine. My money paid for the roof over your ungrateful head. Don't think you can sell anything without my signature. I'll be back tonight and we are going to have a long talk about your mental state." I smiled. "I'll be back tonight." "No, you won't. You can't fly. You can't rent a car. And you certainly aren't going to walk 12 miles in Italian loafers." He was bluffing. He was trying to project power from a position of absolute weakness. He still thought the house was his leverage. He didn't know I had already accepted a cash offer. He didn't know the house was already a ghost. I typed a reply. I didn't send it. I just typed it to get it out of my system. "The roof you paid for is mortgaged to the hilt, Kyle. And the head isn't ungrateful. It's awake." I deleted the text. Silence was louder. An hour passed. The sun began to dip lower, casting long orange shadows across the dusty floor of my studio. My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. The tone had changed. The aggression had burned itself out, replaced by the pathetic, wheedling manipulation of a narcissist who realizes the stick isn't working, so he reaches for the rotten carrot. "Zola, baby, I'm sorry," I snapped. "I'm just so stressed with this deal. You know how I get. The pressure is immense. I'm doing this for us." I rolled my eyes so hard it hurt. For us. The universal anthem of the cheating husband. "I'm starving, Zola. I haven't eaten since lunch. My cards are still down. Can you just cash at me $50? Just for a cab and a sandwich? Please. I'm stuck at a gas station near Lenox. I'm humiliated." Humiliated. He kept using that word, as if his embarrassment was the tragedy here. Not the betrayal, not the lies, not the theft. I looked at the message. $50. He was asking the woman whose career he destroyed, whose bank account he drained, for $50. He wanted a sandwich. I thought about the $4,500 lobster. I thought about the way he wiped the butter off Noelle's chin. I typed a response this time. "Ask Noelle. I hear she likes Burger King." Send. I blocked the number. I sat back in the chair. My heart was pounding, but not from fear, from adrenaline. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was hunting. And to hunt properly, I needed to know exactly what kind of beast I was dealing with. I needed the papers. I left the studio and walked down the hall to the West Wing. This was Kyle's territory. The home office. He kept the door locked. Always. He said it was because of client confidentiality. He said he had sensitive geological surveys that couldn't be seen by prying eyes. I stood in front of the heavy oak door. It was locked. Of course. I reached up to the molding above the door frame. That's where we used to keep the spare key, back when we first moved in. My fingers brushed against dust. Nothing. I checked the potted ficus plant in the hallway. I dug my fingers into the soil. Nothing. "Okay," I said. "Hard way it is." I went to the garage. I opened the toolbox, the red Craftsman chest that I had bought him for his birthday 5 years ago, which he had never touched. I grabbed a flathead screwdriver and a hammer. I walked back to the office door. I wedged the screwdriver into the gap between the door and the frame, right by the lock. I wasn't a burglar. I was clumsy. I scratched the paint. I didn't care. I hammered the end of the screwdriver. Whack! Whack! The wood splintered. The metal groaned. With a loud crack, the latch gave way. The door swung open. The smell hit me instantly. It wasn't the smell of geological surveys. It smelled of stale cigar smoke. It smelled of expensive scotch, and underneath that, a faint, cloying scent of vanilla perfume. Her perfume. I flipped the light switch. The room was pristine. Too pristine. The mahogany desk was empty. The leather chair was pushed in perfectly. It was a stage set. I walked behind the desk. I pulled the center drawer. Locked. I pulled the side drawers. Locked. "Paranoid bastard," I muttered. He didn't just lock the door, he locked the furniture. I looked around the room. Where would he hide the key? Kyle was arrogant. He wasn't creative. He hid things in places where he thought he was the king, places he thought I wouldn't dare touch. I looked at the bookshelf. It was filled with leather-bound books he never read. The Art of War. Thinking Fast and Slow. I started pulling books off the shelf. Nothing. I checked the humidor. Just cigars. I checked the underside of the desk lamp. Nothing. I stood in the center of the room, frustration rising. I was losing time. Even though he was stranded, I felt the phantom pressure of him walking through the front door. I looked at the money tree, a braided Pachira aquatica in the corner. It was the one plant in the house I wasn't allowed to touch. He said his mother gave it to him and he wanted to care for it himself. "Because you're sentimental?" I scoffed. "Please." I walked over to the tree. The soil was dry, bone dry. He hadn't watered it in weeks. I dug my hand into the pot. My fingers hit something hard, not a root, plastic. I pulled it out. It was a small, black, magnetic key box, buried 3 inches deep. "Gotcha," I whispered. I slid the cover open. A small silver key fell into my palm. My hands were shaking again. This was it. This was the black box. I walked back to the desk. I inserted the key into the central locking mechanism of the drawers. It turned smoothly. Click. I pulled the bottom drawer open. This was the deep file drawer. It was packed. Hanging folders, color-coded. Green, assets. Red, liabilities. Blue, personal. I pulled the green folder first. I expected to see our bank statements, the ones he showed me every month, the ones that showed a modest savings account and his salary deposits of $6,000 a month. I opened the file. These weren't the statements he showed me. These were the real statements. J.P. Morgan Private Client. Account holder. Kyle Thorne. I scanned the deposits. March 15th, $28,000. April 15th, $3,500. May 15th, $45,000. Bonus. I grabbed the calculator on his desk. My fingers flew over the keys. $28,000 a month. That was his base. He gave me $3,000. He told me we were tight. He told me we couldn't afford a vacation. He told me the landscape business was a drain. He was bringing in nearly $30,000 a month, and he was giving me 10% to run a mansion and feed him. He wasn't just cheap. He was hoarding. I felt a scream building in my throat, hot and acidic. I swallowed it. I flipped to the withdrawals. Sutton's Table, $1,200. The Ritz-Carlton, $800. Tiffany & Co., $3,500. Jewelry. I hadn't received a piece of jewelry since my wedding ring. I kept flipping. And then I saw it, the pattern. It wasn't just random spending. It was systematic. Every month on the 15th, there was an automatic transfer. Transfer to Ophelia Jenkins. Amount $2,500. I stared at the name, Ophelia Jenkins. I didn't know an Ophelia. Was it a cleaner, a secret child, a loan shark? I checked the date. It went back. I flipped the pages backward. 1 year, 2 years. January 2023. Transfer to Ophelia Jenkins, $2,500. 2 years, 24 months times $2,500, $60,000. He had transferred $60,000 to this woman. That was exactly the amount he claimed he couldn't afford for the roof repairs last year. We had patched it. It looked terrible. He said we were broke. He wasn't broke. He was sponsoring Ophelia. Who the hell was Ophelia? I grabbed my phone. I took photos of every single page. Click, flash, click, flash. My hand was trembling so hard the images were blurry. I had to brace my elbows on the desk to steady the shot. I sent the batch to Jasmine. Subject: Who is Ophelia? Attachment: 45 images. I sat back on his leather chair. It squeaked. It smelled like him. I felt violated. Financial abuse. That's what Jasmine called it. I always thought financial abuse was when they took your money. But hiding money? Pretending to be poor so I would make myself smaller? So I would stop asking for things? So I would feel guilty for buying a bag of fertilizer? That was a special kind of cruelty. He wanted me to feel like a burden. "You're the burden, Kyle," I said to the empty room, "and I'm about to drop you." My phone buzzed. Jasmine. Jasmine. On it. Give me an hour. I'm running a background check on Ophelia Jenkins. Don't touch anything else. Leave the room exactly as you found it. I looked at the splintered door frame. Too late for that, I replied. I was still sitting in Kyle's leather chair, surrounded by the debris of his financial double life, when my phone rang. It was Jasmine. "I found her," Jasmine said. No hello, no preamble. Her voice was tight, like a wire about to snap. "Who is she?" I asked, looking at the name Ophelia Jenkins on the bank statement one more time. $2,500 a month, Jasmine, for 2 years. Is she a child? Is she a second wife? "She's 62 years old," Jasmine said. "She lives in a rented duplex in Decatur. She has no employment history for the last 5 years. "So he's supporting an old woman?" I frowned. "Why?" I dug deeper, Jasmine continued. I cross-referenced her address with known associates. Zola. Ophelia Jenkins is Noelle's mother. The phone almost slipped from my hand. Noelle's mother? Yes, Noelle Simmons. Her birth certificate lists Ophelia Jenkins as her biological mother. I felt the air leave the room. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just a midlife crisis fling with an intern that started 3 months ago. 2 years, I whispered. He's been paying her mother's rent for 2 years. Which means, Jasmine said, her voice dropping, he's been with Noelle for at least 2 years, since she was, 20? 19? He told me he met her 3 months ago, I said, my voice sounding distant like it was coming from underwater. He introduced her as the new intern. He lied, Jasmine said. He's been keeping them, both of them. He's been playing house with her, supporting her mother, building a whole parallel family structure with your money, with the money he told you we didn't have. I looked at the money tree in the corner, the one he watered so carefully while neglecting everything else. He wasn't just cheating on me, he was laughing at me. He had monetized my frugality to fund his mistress's inheritance. $72,000, I said. Direct transfer. That's not including the gifts, the dinners, the trips. Zola, get out of that house, Jasmine said, urgency creeping in. Pack a bag. Come to my place. He's dangerous. A man who lives a lie this big, when it collapses, he might do anything. I'm not leaving, I said. I'm finishing this. There's something else, Jasmine said. Something worse. How can it be worse than a secret family? I asked. I ran the title search on the house, Jasmine said. For the sale to the Sharma family. I wanted to have the deed ready. And, Zola, there's a lien. A lien? Like a contractor lien? For the roof? No, a mortgage. A second mortgage. A home equity line of credit for $650,000. That's impossible, I said. My parents paid for the down payment. We only had a small mortgage left. We never took out a line of credit. I would have to sign for that. The date, Jasmine said. Look at the date I just sent you. I pulled the phone away from my ear to look at the document Jasmine had just texted. Date of recording, November 12th. Lender, Shadow Creek Capital. Amount $650,000. Signatures, Kyle Thorne, Zola Ellison Thorne. November 12th, 6 months ago. My memory flashed back. It was a Tuesday evening. Kyle had come home early. He was manic, excited. He had a bottle of wine. Big news, babe, he had said. The company is letting executives buy into the founder's shares. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but I need to move fast. It's an internal document, just a formality to show asset liquidity. He had put a stack of papers in front of me. He had flipped to the signature page. He had kept talking, distracting me, pouring wine. Just sign here and here. Trust me, Zola. This is our ticket to early retirement. I signed. I didn't read. I trusted him. The internal guarantee, I whispered. He told me it was a company guarantee. It was a mortgage, Jasmine said. He borrowed against the house. He cashed out $650,000 of equity. Your equity. Where is the money? I asked, panic finally starting to claw at my throat. Gone, Jasmine said. I checked the disbursement. It went into a shell account in the Caymans, and from there, it's probably spent or hidden. He stole the house. He stole the garden. The business trip to the Hamptons wasn't a survey. It was an escape run. He had cashed out the house, maxed out the credit cards, and was planning to disappear with Noelle. He was going to leave me with a foreclosed home and a lifetime of debt. I wasn't a wife. I was a mark. He's a criminal, I said. This isn't divorce court stuff, Jasmine. This is prison. Exactly, Jasmine said, which is why you need to come to my office tomorrow morning, and you need to bring everything you found in that drawer. I spent the night in the junk room, sitting on the floor with my back against the door. I had pushed the heavy teak desk in front of it. I didn't sleep. I watched the sunrise paint the walls I used to dream of decorating. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed. Baby Noelle. I expected another taunt, another photo of a burger or a kiss. I looked at the preview. Mrs. Thorne, please pick up. He's crazy. I unlocked the phone. There was a string of messages. He found out you sold the house. He's losing it. He hit me. He threw a bottle at me. He says it's my fault you found out. I'm at the airport. I used his watch to buy a ticket. I'm coming back to Atlanta. And then, the kicker. I know where the money is. I know about the double contracts. I have the laptop. I'll give it to you. Just don't let him kill me. Double contracts. Kyle had mentioned creative accounting once or twice when he was drunk. He bragged about how he saved the company millions in tax liability. I typed back. Come to 32 Peachtree Street at 9:08 a.m. Bring the laptop. If you lie to me, Noelle, I will let the IRS eat you alive. I'll be there, she replied. I stood up. My legs were stiff. My heart was cold. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the prosecutor. 9 a.m. Jasmine's conference room. The mood was funereal. But for who? I sat at the head of the table. I wore white, head to toe. It was a power move. It said, I am untouched by your filth. Jasmine sat to my right. To my left sat Mr. Harrison. He was the attorney for the investment fund that backed Kyle's company. Jasmine had called him at 7 a.m. When she mentioned embezzlement and founders' shares, he drove over in his pajamas to see the evidence. The door opened. Noelle walked in. She looked nothing like the girl in the video. Her hair was matted. She wore sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. Her lip was split. She didn't look at me. She put a silver MacBook on the table. "Here," she whispered. "The password is King Kyle 88. Mr. Harrison took the laptop. He opened it. He tapped for a few minutes. His face went pale. "My God," he muttered. "He's been skimming off the top of the land acquisition deals. 2 contracts for every sale. 1 for the records, 1 for the pocket, tax fraud, corporate theft." "Is it enough?" I asked. "It's enough to bury him," Harrison said. Just then, the receptionist buzzed. "Mrs. Thorne, your husband is here. He's shouting." "Send him in," I said. Kyle didn't walk in. He stormed in. He looked like a man who had slept under a bridge. His suit was rumpled. He had no tie. He smelled of sweat and desperation. "Zola!" he screamed, ignoring everyone else. "You sold my house! You sold my house!" He lunged toward me. 2 security guards stepped out from the corners of the room. Kyle stopped, chest heaving. He looked around. He saw Jasmine. He saw Mr. Harrison. And then he saw Noel. His face crumbled. "You!" he hissed. "You little traitor!" "Sit down, Kyle," Jasmine said. Her voice cracked like a whip. Kyle sat. He slumped into the chair, the fight draining out of him as he realized the audience he was facing. "What is this?" he asked. "An intervention?" "It's a eulogy," I said. I pressed the button on the remote. The projector screen lowered. Slide 1, the kiss. The video from Sutton's table played on a loop. Kyle closed his eyes. "Okay, so I cheated. I'm sorry, I'll go to therapy. We can fix this." "Next," I said. Slide 2, Ophelia Jenkins. The bank transfers. The total, $72,000. "You supported her mother," I said. "With my money, while telling me we couldn't afford a vacation." Kyle looked at Noelle. "You told her?" Noelle stared at the floor. "Next," I said. Slide 3, Shadow Creek Capital. The $650,000 mortgage, the forged signature. "This is fraud, Kyle," Jasmine said. "Bank fraud, identity theft." Kyle started to sweat. I was going to pay it back. It was an investment. I was going to double it." "With what?" Mr. Harrison spoke up. "With the money you skimmed from the company?" Kyle froze. He looked at Mr. Harrison for the first time. "Mr. Harrison," Kyle choked. I can explain. The double contracts were a strategy." "It's called embezzlement, Kyle," Harrison said, "and we've already notified the SEC." Kyle looked at me. His eyes were wide, wet, and terrified. "Zola," he begged. "Baby, please, I did it for us. I wanted to give you the world. I just got lost. Help me. Tell them I'm a good man. Tell them." I looked at him. I looked at the man I had served for 10 years. The man I had made myself small for. "A good man?" I asked. I stood up. I walked over to him. I leaned down close enough to smell the stale alcohol on his breath. A good man doesn't feed lobster to his mistress while his wife eats leftovers. A good man doesn't steal his wife's inheritance. A good man doesn't mortgage his home to run away. I straightened up. "You aren't a good man, Kyle. You're a bad investment, and I'm liquidating." The doors opened again. This time, it wasn't security. It was the Atlanta Police Department, Economic Crimes Unit. "Kyle Thorne?" the detective asked. Kyle didn't answer. He just put his head in his hands and sobbed. "Stand up," the detective ordered. They pulled him up. They cuffed his hands behind his back. The metal clicked. Clack, clack. He looked at me one last time as they dragged him out. "Zola!" he wailed. "Zola, call my mother! Call someone!" I stood still. I didn't look away. Noelle was crying in the corner. Am I going to jail too?" "That depends on the judge," Jasmine said coldly. "But you better get a lawyer, and not one paid for by Kyle." The room cleared out. I walked to the window. I looked down at the street. I saw them put Kyle into the back of a squad car. I saw the lights flash, blue, like my hydrangeas. I smiled. Update, 3 months later. It's been 90 days since the arrest. The divorce was finalized last week. It was a default judgment because Kyle is currently being held without bail at the Fulton County Jail. He's facing 20 years for wire fraud, bank fraud, and embezzlement. Doreen, his mother, tried to sue me for emotional distress. The judge threw it out in 5 minutes. She had to move into a smaller apartment. I hear she spends her days telling anyone who will listen that I'm a witch who seduced her innocent son into a life of crime. Noelle got a plea deal. She testified against Kyle. She got probation and community service. She moved back to Decatur with her mother. I don't think about her. As for me, I'm currently sitting in my new studio. It's a loft in West Midtown. The walls are covered in blueprints. Ellison and Kodiwan is fully operational. I have 3 new clients. One of them is the Sharma family. They invited me over to see the garden last week. The orchids are thriving. They told me the house feels happy. I looked at my bank account this morning. The proceeds from the house sale, after paying off the fraudulent mortgage, which the bank insurance covered because I proved fraud, are sitting there. It's my money, all mine. I just bought a new pair of gardening shears, Japanese steel, expensive, because I'm worth it. And my garden? It's just beginning to bloom. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.